So what's up, guys? Today we're going to go ahead and put all this new stuff onto the YZ450. First, we're going to go over what we got here. We're going to go ahead and use this. It's a Supersprox. It's an all steel sprocket. So the reason I went with steel over aluminum was for durability reasons. And on a 450, at least right now, I have no issue with power. So we are adding a little bit of weight. It is unsprung weight, or sprung weight, sorry. And not too worried about it though on the 450 for now. Not fast enough to actually probably notice the difference. The only issue I think I may run into this is if this coating wears off on the teeth, maybe rust, but we'll see. For at 40 bucks, they're cheaper than the aluminum, should last longer, and excited to see how it works. They also do have these for a little bit more money where you can get the outer ring in steel and then the inner ring in aluminum to save some weight. But I just went with all the steel for 40 bucks. I really don't see any issue, or if I have to replace it with another one, it is what it is. Whenever I do sprockets, I always make sure to put new bolts on. I've actually had an issue with one of my KTMs where I reused the bolts on 2 or 3 sprockets, and I think on the 3rd time, one of these came loose, kind of shredded the hub. So for $10, it's not really something I want to play with. I have the Loctite right on them already, so it's a nice little thing. Going with a Renthal steel sprocket on the front. Both the front and rear are the same. Got a 49 tooth on the rear and a 13 on the front. And then this was from Rocky Mountain ATV. I believe it's their brand, the Primary Drive. It's the chain, 114 links, so it's already adjusted or the right amount of links for the bike. It is the X-ring chain. I really didn't care if I got an X-ring, O-ring, or even went with the standard chain. This is actually the only one they had in stock that was a gold for a 520 chain and a pre-made length. I like being able to just take my chains out of the bag and put them on the bike the way it is. I'm not sure if this is something they manufacture or if it's something they outsource, and if so, who's actually the manufacturer of their chains. This was actually cheaper than most other companies' standard chains, so I'm a little iffy on how well it's going to work, but for 65 bucks, yet again, I'm going to give it a try. And so this will be kind of a long-term review. I'll try to show you guys how much it stretches and how often I'm having to adjust my chain, which is a thing I think, if anything, I'm going to have an issue with this. Now, the nice thing is with the X-rings in there, hopefully the maintenance will be a little bit easier on it, but not too worried about that. But we're gonna go ahead and get the bike apart and put all this on and show you guys how it looks afterwards. So there's different ways you can take off these clips. This was actually a trick I saw online. If you just take a flathead, lay it up against the back here, take a little hammer, and give it a quick little, that'll pop it out once, and then just give it a nice little, and yeah, easy way to take off the clips. So to remove the sprocket, you're going to need an 8mm hex and a 12mm for the bolts on the back. So there's definitely a noticeable amount of weight difference between the stock aluminum one and the new Supersprox steel. I would say easily 2.5 times from the old hand scale here, but on a 450 I'm not gonna be able to notice it. So So we have the sprocket all installed now. The only thing I will say, it's not the bolt kit, it's actually the sprocket itself. I first thought these bolts might not have had the same recessed or ability to recess. They actually stick. You can see a little bit not as flush with the sprocket as the stock ones, but the stock ones did the same thing. So it's actually the sprocket that just doesn't have as deep holes. So if you're gonna use a sprocket and you are a visual person, this one does stick out a little bit more, but not a big deal. Have these all tightened up. The only other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean both of these bearing sides, re-grease them, and then we're gonna move over to getting the front sprocket changed and then put it all back together and get the new chain on there. This next part, if you have two people, it's much nicer, or if you're like me and you have long arms and legs, just reach across the bike, hold down your brake pedal, and there you go. So here we have our beautiful brand new Renthal sprocket. Our new lock washer. And a new bolt. So I'm sure there's a torque spec for this, and if you want to, maybe I'll drop it into the description. I'm more in favor of just giving it a 1, 2, 3 ugga chuggas with the impact wrench, and that's always worked for me. Never had a problem with either breaking a bolt, stripping any threads. It's never come loose. It works, and at least the impact wrench I have, I don't think I can over torque it. So let's do that real quick, and then we can put this all back together. And it's 1, 2, 3. And that's always worked for me. Take an old rag, wad it up so it's nice and thick, set it between the chain, and then pull back. That pulls your wheel forward against both the chain blocks. That way you're, when you go to tighten down the axle nut, you know your wheel's all the way forward. So let's do that real quick and see how the chains feel. And now we're a little tighter than 3 fingers, but like I said, it's gonna stretch real fast, so we'll call it good there. So initial impressions of the chain, I really enjoy how both the inner and the outer links are gold on this. On some of the even higher quality chains, you only have the gold outer links and you have the silver or black inner links. I like the all gold look. Right from the get-go, this chain, I can notice how there's a little bit more drag on this type of chain than there is just a standard chain when I have it lubed properly. A lot of people did mention that these do have more drag. Yet again, 450, and it really maybe sounds like I don't like power, but yet again, I'm not a super fast rider, and I probably am not going to notice a difference. Maybe I'll notice a little bit more like engine braking from just having drag on the system when they're, I'm off power, but I just don't see me having an issue with on power situations. Looks really good. Supersprox, rear-sprox. Only issue I really have with it so far is I wish these would sit in a little bit more flush. They're sticking out quite a bit, but as long as they don't fall off and or cause damage to the hub, we'll be good with that. I've had one of these Supersprox, one of their half aluminum, then with the outer ring being steel on a KTM 250 before, and it worked really good. I never noticed any rusting or wear on the outer rings, and that was actually the one I sold it with the bike, so I don't know how many more hours, but I had at least 40, 50 hours on it, and it looked practically brand new. So as long as this one does the same thing and it doesn't get all scratched up, we'll be good. I think it looks really good. I like the black look. Yeah, and I'm not expecting too much out of the Renthal. Renthal's a good company, and if it does just what a normal steel front sprocket does, then we'll be good with that. to 15 hours on the bike and see how it does. Main thing I'm going to be worried about is how much this chain stretched out. Being a $65 chain and an X-ring chain at that, I'm not expecting a lot out of it, but as long as it lasts, say, you know, 40 hours or so with me, which is might sound like a lot to some of you guys, but that's about what I was getting out of my older chains on my 250 when I was a much faster rider. So we'll see how that goes, but see you guys later.